Hello and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Bida Raghav. The top focus this evening is a strong rebuttal from the Unique Identification Authority of India, UIDAI, and independent experts to a report by global credit agency Moody's Investor Services on decentralized digital identities. While the report is largely about the pros and cons of decentralized digital identities and makes a pitch for decentralization, a specific and small reference in it on the reliability of Aadhaar, which seems baseless, it is what has irked the UIDAI and independent experts. Aadhaar is the world's largest ID program, remember, and the scale of its successful implementation has been globally endorsed. However, one line in the report raises questions over Aadhaar's reliability in, and I quote, hot and humid conditions for manual labourers. This has sparked off a strong counter-reaction. NDTV's Sakshi Bajaj has the details.
The government has rejected global credit agency Moody's Investor Services report raising red flags about Aadhaar, India's 12-digit unique identity number. The Unique Identification Authority of India, which is responsible for Aadhaar enrollment and authentication, has strongly refuted Moody's claims on frequent service denials, particularly for manual labourers in hot and humid climates. Speaking exclusively to NDTV, Mr. R.S. Sharma, who was also the founding Director General and Mission Director for Unique Identification Authority of India, said it is a report that is not based on any evidence and it appears to be a motivated report to malign India's next generation digital identity infrastructure. And now for those wondering, what does the report mention? The report says the Aadhaar system faces hurdles such as the burden of establishing authorization and concerns about biometric reliability and the system often resulting in service denials. It also states the reliability of biometric technologies, especially for manual labourers in hot, humid climates, is questionable, and also flags privacy and security concerns of centralized ID systems like Aadhaar. The centre in a statement has said, and I quote, a certain investor service has, without citing any evidence or basis, made sweeping assertions against Aadhaar, the most trusted digital ID in the world. Over the last decade, over 1 billion Indians have expressed their trust in Aadhaar by using it to authenticate themselves over 100 billion times. To ignore such an unprecedented vote of confidence in an identity system is to imply that the users do not understand what is in their own interest. The statement further adds that the report does not cite either primary or secondary data or research in support of the opinions presented in it.
Remember, the fact that Aadhaar occupies a pivotal role in social, political and financial conversations in India makes it extremely important to dispel and emphatically respond to any kind of doubt, an iota of it even, that's been raised. Joining us now is Mr. R.S. Sharma, who was the first Director General of the UIDAI. Sir, thank you for taking time to speak to us. While the reference to Aadhaar, sir, in the report is a very small portion, and I agree it's not the main portion of that report of just about 4 lines, would it be fair to say that the concerns raised about the effectiveness are baseless?
I think, first of all, let's understand that the report is primarily not on Aadhaar. Moody's report is just, 10-page report and you have just about 4 lines in the paragraph. It's a very casual observation which they have made. And I don't think Aadhaar really needs Moody's certificate to be proven as the best identity in the whole world, the largest digital identity in the whole world. Countries are now, kind of aspiring, and countries are saying and telling, and G20's declaration is for all of us to see as to how the digital public infrastructure, especially Aadhaar, how India has really leapfrogged in the digital technologies. And I think all these concerns about the privacy, the security and other things are completely baseless. I think I have seen the UIDAI's response, which is absolutely fitting response to the concerns raised in the report. I don't think it deserves really a consideration, especially when 100 billion people have authenticated on Aadhaar. Aadhaar is now central to India's service delivery systems, the direct benefit transfer systems, and almost every other. It's a foundational identity, and it's one of the best identities in the whole world. Actually, the report is not about so much about Aadhaar. If you see the report is, saying that we need to have what is called decentralized ID systems in the world. But they forget the fact the decentralized ID system, somewhere it has to be anchored into a foundational ID. Otherwise, I can make 10 digital identities in the Facebook, for example, or I can make 10 digital identities, all kinds of in the decentralized identity system. Please understand that the whole purpose of Aadhaar was to create a unique identity for every resident of this country. The purpose of Aadhaar is, and once you have, Aadhaar also provides a decentralized ID system. You can keep Aadhaar in your mobile phone, you can, whichever way, you can keep Aadhaar in your digital locker and stuff like that. And ultimately also remember that any decentralized ID system will also create problems for interoperability. Today, a Jharkhand person can get, ration in Delhi. And that is why, because our identity system is completely cross-country. It's the entire country's ID system. And therefore, we have been talking about the one nation, one ration card and stuff like that. That will not be possible in a decentralized kind of system. So I think the report is absolutely, very casual. It does not deserve the kind of attention which the press has provided to it. And I don't think anything more need to be said about this.
Well, obviously, sir, journalists are often guilty as charged of sensationalizing things. I'm not disputing that. But in this case, given that Aadhaar is the cornerstone of the India's DPI, the response to the report, or any slight doubt even, has to be emphatic and categorical, because this has been globally recognized and essentially for India's pitch to the world.
Yeah, what is happening, and these guys, the Moody's report is basically just kind of promoting and saying that, this has to be a private sector-led identity system, blockchain and stuff like that. I don't think this is really relevant in our context. And I think the emphatic kind of denial has already been given by the UIDAI, the authority which is responsible for actually operating Aadhaar. And people, the kind of things they have raised, like in a hot and humid environment of India, the biometrics are unreliable. Please understand, authentication is done not only on biometrics, fingerprints, it is done on iris, it is done on face, it is done on OTP. So there are multiple ways of authenticating oneself. And people are getting all kinds of services, opening bank account, getting mobile SIMs. 100 billion people have authenticated thus far. Imagine, each person of India has on an average authenticated about 85 times, considering India's population as 1.3 billion or 1.4 billion. So I think this is a complete, it doesn't deserve any consideration, unfortunately. But, as you guys have made it very big, so we are all responding to it.
Again, by way of emphasis, I'm just asking, has there been any data of any form to suggest any difficulties in operations or utilization over the last many years based on climatic conditions?
Not at all, number one. Number two, as I told you, there are multiple ways of authenticating your identity. Fingerprint is only one of them, number one. And secondly, the guys don't understand. They are using the term authorization. Authorization is not what Aadhaar does. Authorization is what a domain does. Authorization is basically whether you can do transaction from your bank account is called authorization. Whether you are the person who can operate the bank account is called authentication, right? Aadhaar only provides authentication services, that you are you. That's all. And therefore, I think what is required for us to all understand, and I think the test, जिसको बोलते हैं कि हाथ कंगन को आरसी क्या? We have done 100 billion authentications. Every day Aadhaar is doing so much of, transactions are taking place. I don't think there's not even a single example of any data having been leaked from Aadhaar data system. The data remains encrypted all the time. The Honorable Supreme Court has dealt on the issue of the privacy violation by Aadhaar, and it has unequivocally declared that Aadhaar does not violate privacy. So I don't think these guys are just talking, without understanding a subject.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Journalists, I agree, can often sensationalize things, but thank you for those categorical reiteration of the efficiency of Aadhaar. Thank you, sir, for joining us there. I also spoke with Joining us this evening is Sanjay Jain, former Chief Product Officer of Aadhaar. Sanjay, thank you so much for taking time out to speak to us. One of the contentious observations in that Moody's report, as I was posing to other experts as well, is about the questioning of the functioning of Aadhaar in hot and humid conditions. This seems completely baseless given the track record, right?
Right. I mean, thanks, Veera, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you. But before we start, I want to put the report in context. The report is actually about decentralized finance and digital assets. The bulk of the report describes the challenges faced by decentralized identity systems. And the summary is actually very negative for decentralized identity. It talks about the fact that it poses risks such as facilitating illegal activities, deepening the digital divide, and many other technical complexity and cyber risks. In addition, the report is overall very cautious about digital identity systems. So within this 10-page report, there's put about 4 lines about Aadhaar. And these 4 lines have a very broad brush. They have not got any backing data. Given that Aadhaar was, the first Aadhaar was issued around 13 years ago, the system has issued over 1.3 billion identities. There have been about 100 billion authentication requests. I believe there's absolutely no basis for these statements. But I want to emphasize, this is not about Aadhaar. This report is about decentralized identity and sounds a note of caution on all digital identity systems. The newspaper reports seem to present it in a very different way.
Agreed, Sanjay, that the report is about a generic issue. But despite that, just to emphasize the point that we have gone, we have gone well past the time for any questions, even the slightest ones, on the reliability of Aadhaar in any form. It's really proved itself.
Yeah, like I said, it's been 13 years since this journey started. We have used this system for governance, for providing benefits to our citizenry, and it has proved itself in the field, and hence that really cannot be questioned anymore. Of course, that said, any system should be open to upgrades and so on as technology changes, and the UIDAI, as far as I know, is very open to that, to a constructive conversation around that. But this report is not that.
Right. The reason I'm emphasizing on this, we are emphasizing on this, Sanjay, is because Aadhaar is the foundation for India's DPI, and the scale of its success has been endorsed by the world. Hence, it needs to be categorically established that there can be no doubt.
Sure. No, I mean, I agree with you that, to always watch out for some of these things which are done in a way that really has no basis, right? So I think from that perspective, I would be very clear. There is no basis, in fact. And the point is that, yes, we have to watch out for such reports. And more importantly, I think the report, it says what it says, but then the newspaper articles have sort of taken this and twisted it far beyond what the report has said. So which is exactly why you need to be cautious, right? And that just proves the point that there are people who are waiting for these opportunities and who will take anything which is said out of context and blow it out of proportion.
And Sanjay, how would you contextualize this report for the India context? How should we understand the decentralized digital identity given the successful implementation of UIDAI in India and the scale of its success?
So, decentralized IDs is a phenomenon that's about 5 to 6 years old. It is very new technology. It carries lots of promise and risks. And as a result of that, it's something which we should continue to, look at. But given the very high risks, even that this report points at today, I don't see us revisiting it in favor of decentralized identity soon. But that said, the UIDAI has already moved ahead with Aadhaar offline authentication and applications such as DigiLocker and even DigiYatra, which allow for offline use of the identity system. And these are use cases which DID claims to solve, but we have solved without using the DID underlying blockchain and systems. And so I think it's good to see what's happening around the world, stay abreast with technology, provide the best system possible for our citizenry so that it can be used very well, and ignore a lot of the noise out there is what I would say. And let's go do the right thing for our people. And we are doing that certainly right.
Let's focus on the substance and not the noise. Thank you so much, Sanjay Jain, for joining us.